Hello again, my name's Gabe Zolna. Well, you want any more proof that the federal government can't run anything worth a damn? I was just watching a little bit of Cavuto, and they're talking about air safety. A couple of United planes almost collided on takeoff. The faults, as it turns out, was the controllers, but it wouldn't have mattered if you had, 500 people killed. And what they're really talking about is that the federal government is the ones that run the Federal Aviation Authority. And in Canada, they've privatized it. And when they privatized it, they upgraded the entire system. What they were saying is that in the United States, we're working off of archaic systems. And if the news media was doing what the FAA does, we'd still be taking 8mm movies. The thing is, I myself am a private pilot, and if it wouldn't have been for my instructor, I wouldn't be here talking to you. I was flying an A-36 Bonanza in Southern California, and I was heading to Brackett Field. Brackett Field's in the LA Basin, and there's a ring of mountains in front of it, actually behind it. And I was being controlled. I was doing about 160, 170 miles an hour. And it was solid IFR. And the controller asked me to go on a certain heading, which didn't make any sense to me, because they normally turn you in the closest direction. And he wanted me to turn about 240 degrees, which didn't make any sense. So I questioned the controller, and he repeated his instruction. And thank God I was with my instructor, who was very aware of where we were as far as being situation awareness. And he got on the radio, because we both have yokes in front of us and we both have the ability to communicate with the controller or other airplanes. And he said, "You don't really want us to take that heading, do you? Because if you do, you're turning us into the ridge of mountains." And the controller hesitated for a moment, and he came back with the right instructions. And again, if I would have listened to what he had said, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. So they do make mistakes. That does happen. And there's a lot of incidences that you can look at and review where that in fact does happen and people die. There was one incident in Kentucky. The airport had two runways. One runway was, I believe, around 3,500 feet long or 2,500 feet long, and the other one was almost 6,000 feet long. The airplane I was going to take off was a commuter airplane. It had, I think, 50 passengers, which included the two pilots, the co-pilot, and the captain of the airplane. The control towers are supposed to have two controllers, one for landing traffic, one for departing traffic. And it was an early morning flight. There was one controller, and he had cleared the aircraft for a specific runway. The co-pilot was flying the airplane, and he taxied to the runway. And then the way it works is you're given a clearance to taxi, and then when you get to where you're supposed to get, you identify yourself as being where you are, and then they'll clear you for the runway. They'll say take runway 22, straight out departure, which is what you might have requested, and then you'll go position and hold, and then you'll take off. Well, you're supposed to do a couple of things. You're supposed to look to make sure you're on the right runway. The airplanes have what's called a directional gyro and a compass, and if the co-pilot who was flying would have looked, he would have seen he was on the wrong runway. The runway he was on was the shorter of the two runways. The controller cleared him for takeoff when he shouldn't have. The controller should have looked to make sure he was on the right runway, which he didn't do. He just cleared him. As a result, everyone died except for the co-pilot. And I believe he lost his leg or two legs from the accident. My point is, people do make mistakes. The reality is that the federal government can't run anything. Another reason you need to end this nightmare with this Obamacare, it's going down the track for what? For single payer. Single payer is the federal government. And now we're talking about privatizing our FAA. Wake up, America. The government can't do anything right. Period. Hope I didn't bore you with that story. The reality is, we're in for a real rough ride with this usurper who was totally out of his element. That's what I think. So what do you think?